Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IoT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert lab. This is the video number 7. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We were talking about applying a group policy to change the default account profile picture to all of the users of the three armies, or to unify a certain account profile picture for every army. So let me show you all what I mean by this. This picture, okay, you will see it when you log into the Windows. It will give you a field to put your username and another field to put your password, and this picture will appear for you. So we have made a group policy for the three armies, or a group policy for every army, to change this default picture to reflect the logo of the army. So for example, if you are a user for the Ally army, you will see the logo of the Ally army on your picture. Okay, so you will have a picture of the Ally army, and then you can put your username and password. Or if you are from the Japanese army, you will see the logo of the Japanese army, and then you can put your username or password. The same for the Russian army. So this we have done in the previous video. This is called default account or default account profile picture. Okay, so we have done this for the three armies. There was a problem for this GPO to be applied. It was not working properly, so I have been troubleshooting the problem, and at the end we have a solution for it. Okay, so we have applied, or we have created the group policy. There was some problems concerning the implementation of this group policy, and we have done some troubleshooting steps to see what's the problem, and then at the end we have found the solution. Okay, so this we have done in the previous video. Let me have a minute to update my Telegram. So what we will do in this video, we will create, okay, so let's hold for a minute. So what we will do in this video we will create an additional domain controller. So we have our primary domain controller, which is RACC01. This is the primary domain controller. We will create an additional domain controller, which is RACC02, and this will not only be an additional domain controller, it will be a file server, it will be a WSOS server, it will be our DHCP server. So it will have multiple roles. So this server will not only be an additional domain controller, it will be a DHCP, a file server, a WSOS. So in this video we'll create a new virtual machine, and we will install Windows Server Datacenter Core on it. So it also will be installed, or we'll install a system without a graphical interface, and we will also add to this server or this virtual machine 2 network cards, and we'll make teaming between them, the same that we have done for the primary domain controller, or for the first virtual machine acting as a primary domain controller. And we have said why are adding 2 network cards for this virtual machine, or why we are having a virtual machine with 2 network cards, and why we make teaming between them. These have a lot of benefits. Please refer to my previous videos to know. So we will begin working with this video to create a second virtual machine that will act as an additional domain controller, and we will begin preparing. So what we will do, we will have a virtual machine. We will install Windows Server Datacenter Core 2019 on it, and then we'll begin renaming the machine. We will give it a static IP address. We will make network teaming. We will update the machine, Windows Update. We will make antivirus updates. So we'll do a lot of things. If I need to be exact, it's the same that we have done when we were creating the first virtual machine, which was acting as a primary domain controller. So we are repeating the same steps. So if you need to pause this video, you can, because I will repeat what I have done with the primary domain controller. Okay, but the only difference that this virtual machine will not be promoted as an additional domain controller. We will only join it to the domain, and the upcoming video will promote it to be a domain controller. Okay, so let's wait and see how we can do this. We will open the VM Workstation Pro, and then we will create a new virtual machine, and we should give it more hardware, because this will act as multiple, or will act as multiple server roles. We tell him create a new virtual machine, and we'll put the DVD later for the system, and then we are choosing the system. Here we can see that we don't have Windows Server 2019, but 2016 will do the trick. Okay, and then we will name it RACC02. This is it, and then next, and then we will give it 200 gigabyte of hard disk. Okay, and then because we will split this hard disk to two partitions, one the C100 and the D to be the left or the rest of the 100 gigabytes. So here we will give it a RAM of 3 gigabyte because it will act as a lot of server roles, as we said before, and give it one processor because I don't have a lot of processor. And then we will attach it to our VMnet 8 network, which is the network that all of our servers and workstation reside in. And then we will add an additional network adapter, and we will add it to the same network, okay, VMnet 8. And we will do a couple of things. First of all, we need to share a folder from my laptop to this virtual machine, or from my host to my guest. So now we will edit this machine setting, and then we'll go to the options, and first of all we will configure the option of when we power off this virtual machine, it will ask us if we need to take a snapshot or a backup from a virtual machine, we need to revert a snapshot, or to restore a snapshot or a previous snapshot, or just power off. This is very useful when you are working in a virtual lab, in a virtual environment, to always remind you to take a snapshot. So this is good. And then we will add some shared folders between my host and my guest, or my host and my virtual machine. So now we will add three folders to be shared between my laptop and my virtual machine. So now we add important CD images. This contains most of my ISO images or DVDs, important DVDs. And then we will add a couple of folders which will contain my scripts and other things. So now we will have Kareem sources, or I have important CD images, and then AD collection or AD tools collection. This contains a lot of things I use in my labs. And then I will add Kareem sources. This is also a folder that contains some important ISO images also I need. So here we will have shared three folders, and they will be displayed in my virtual machine as a network map drive. Okay, so this is it. Now we will mount the Windows Server ISO DVD or ISO image. So now we will go and add it. Here I'm just referring or just searching. I didn't notice that this is, we'll use this one, so we can pause it here really quickly again. So here this is the ISO image. So I have mounted it, and then apply and OK. And then we need to have our primary domain control opened because it will join the domain. So this is our primary domain controller. This is our first domain controller in our domain. So we need to have our primary domain controller open so we can join this machine to the domain, and then later we will promote it to be a domain controller. Here I'm just decreasing the RAM for my workstation because I have only 8 gigabyte of RAM. So I will give this 1 gigabyte, and this is 3 gigabyte, and this is 1. So we have 3, 1, 1. We have 5 gigabyte, and I have the rest for my laptop. So I can use, or I work with my laptop with 3 gigabyte of RAM, and the rest are distributed to my virtual machines. So now we can work and see. First we have opened our primary domain controller. Now it is ready. We will join, or we will log into the primary domain controller using my user account or my domain admin account, and just to make sure everything is up and running, I'm just logging in. So every group policy is applied. So now we have everything up and running. We need to make just a small small command ipconfig just to display all of the IP setting for this server. So because this is our primary domain control, this will be 192.168.1.8, and this is the gateway 192.168.1.2, and this is our DNS 192.168.1.8, which is the same as the IP address of the domain controller. So it's a domain controller and the DNS. So our second domain controller, our additional domain controller, will be 192.168.1.9, and it will have the same gateway, and it will have the DNS server, our primary domain controller IP address, and itself, because the additional domain controller will act also as an additional DNS server. So let's wait and see. I am just displaying this so I can know exactly the IP setting of this additional domain controller. So let's wait and see. We will open this virtual machine, and then it will ask us to boot from DVD, and then press enter. And then it's loading the files, and then it will continue the installation process of the Windows. So now it will ask the language to be installed, the Windows language to be installed, it's English United States, and we will use the time and currency for the United States. We'll change it later, and then install. Then we will accept the license agreement when it displayed, or when it is displayed. And we will choose Windows Server Datacenter Core 64-bit, and as we have said before, this system doesn't have a graphical interface, and it's displaying this notification under, and then we'll accept the license agreement, and then custom installation, and then we will have two partitions. So we'll make the first partition 100 GB, and this will be the C partition, or our operating system partition. We have said before that we need to have more than 200 GB of space if you need to install Windows Server, okay, on a physical server or a virtual machine. And actually it is more than 200 giga, so you can put 300 giga, but actually I have my virtual hard disk only 200, so I give it to 100. But in real life you need to have your operating system. If you will install Windows Server on a machine, you need to have the partition that will hold the operating system to be more than 200 gigabyte. Okay, so we have done this, and then this is our first partition, which will be 100, and the second we will make it as another partition, so we'll have C and D. This is partition 4 and partition 5, and all of these partitions are reserved for the system. One for the recovery, if you need to recover the system, and the other for the system, something for, I think, the boot files or something. Anyway, so now we will have a new, no, just a moment guys, here we have to go there again. So here we will do it as 100 gigabyte. Okay, this is it, this is our first partition. Okay, apply. Okay, and then we will have this as a second partition, new partition, so we'll make it the rest another partition, and then format it as NTFS so we can access it. So this will be the D partition, and we install the system on the partition 4, which will be the C partition. So now we will pause the video until the installation is complete. So now the installation is finished. It will ask us to set a password for the administrator account, which will be the first username Windows will create for you automatically, so you can log in to the Windows Server Datacenter Core operating system. We have said the recommendations is to put a strong password for administrator or the user administrator, and change it from administrator to any other name, and then disable it completely and create another user that have the same permissions or rights like the administrator. The administrator has a full privilege on the machine. Okay, so now we will put put a new password. And why we are disabling the administrator account? Because most hackers will use it and will take benefit of it. Okay, so now we are putting a new password for the administrator, which is strong password, and then we have set it up. Now we need to do a couple of things. We need to change the name of the machine to be RACC01, and a couple of things to be done, the same that we have done for this first virtual machine acting as a primary domain controller. So let's see first. We will use the sconfig menu, the one that we have used before, also with the primary domain controller. So I think, let's see if it's paused or not. It's playing. Okay, so now we will install VMware Tools. This is the first thing to do, because as we said before, the VMware Tools will make us, or will make a link, or will link the host with the guest, or it will link the host with the virtual machine, so I can share things between them and I can communicate to this virtual machine from my laptop. So this is very important, and a lot of things. So we will insert the VMware Tools from the VM menu, and then we will go to the partition that contains this VMware Tools. It is basically, it is inserted in the DVD, or the virtual DVD for this DVD-ROM for this virtual machine, which is actually, it will be the E partition, because we have C as the operating system, D as our secondary partition, so E will be the DVD-ROM letter. Okay, so now we will see this if we type D. If we need to access the D partition to see if there is something on it, D double dots, and then we tell him dir, you can see that file not found, because there is no files on the D partition. Okay, it's empty. Okay, so we have the C partition, and this is operating system, D the second partition. Now we will go to the E partition. Okay, so this will contain, if we tell him dir, it means displaying the content of the partition or the DVD-ROM. So here we can see that it contains the VMware Tools upgrade. We will type setup 64.exe to run the program 64-bit.exe, and then press enter. Take note that the installation window will be behind this CMD window. Okay, so we need to minimize it like I have did. Okay, so we need to take care. So we will press setup 64-bit, because it's a 64-bit system, so we will use this file. Here we can see that the installation has begun. The window for this installation will be behind the CMD window. Okay, so we need to take care to minimize this window so you can see the windows, or the window for installation of VMware. Okay, so now it is installing, or it is preparing to install. So the first thing you need to do when you create a virtual machine on VMware, you need to install the operating system, and the second thing, you need to install VMware Tools. Okay, so this works for anything, for the Windows, Linux, or Mac, or any other system. So tell him next, and then complete installation, and then next, and then install. And after the installation, you need to restart the virtual machine. And here you can see there is a couple of also drivers to be installed to increase the performance, or improve the performance of this virtual machine. You can see this is VMCI driver, display driver, keyboard drivers. So all of these are drivers to increase, or to facilitate, or to improve the performance of this virtual machine. So let's wait. So here we can see it's displaying video driver, and now we can see that this window appeared after minimizing the window for the CMD. So now we will wait until it prompts us for restarting. Then finish, and then we need to restart. Okay, so it will restart. After that, we need to change the name of the machine, to rename it to RACC02. Okay, this will be the name of our additional domain controller, and configure the time to reflect Cairo time zone, to configure a couple of things. Okay, to configure an additional local administrator. So we have administrator here on this machine. We need to create another one, okay, for as a backup if the administrator didn't work, and we will disable it after or as I have said before, we will disable this account. So you need to have another account with the same privileges. So we will do all of this, okay, and we have done this before with RACC01. So now we need, or we wait for the machine to restart. So now we have Control Alt Delete, press, and then we will type the password for administrator, and then OK. Now we will use, or first of all we will check the user here. So there is a command, you will type it, who am I, and press enter. It will give you the user logged into this machine, but let's wait for a moment. So first of all, Z, this is the partition that I have shared between my host and my virtual machine. Remember, in the beginning of the configuration of this virtual machine, I have shared a couple of folders, and these are shared, or will be put, or will appear as a network map drive. So this drive is Z. If we tell him dir, you will see that these are the three folders that I have shared, so I can access them from here. It is Z. Okay, so the shared folder, or the partition shared between my virtual machine and my host, will be the Z partition. Okay, so here we can see we can access. I need to go again to my C drive and then sconfig, and then begin configuring the different setting for this virtual machine. We need first to change the name of the machine. This is not the correct name I need, so tell him to, and then we will type another name for the machine, RACC02, and press enter. This also will need to restart the machine, so the name will take effect. So I need to restart the machine. And then we'll continue configuration with this server. So we need to change the name, we need to create a second local administrator account, okay, and a couple of things. So here is Control Alt Delete, and then we will type the password, okay, and then host name. If we type host name, press enter, now we can see that it will display the name of the server. So it's now changed to RACC02. Okay, so this is another command you can use from the command prompt to display the name of the computer name of the machine. Okay, so now we will type sconfig, and then we need to add a local administrator account. So we have administrator, we will add another one, we will name it Keraof1. This will be the second user on this machine. We have the first user administrator, this has full control over the machine, and the second user will be Keraof1, which also will have a full control over the machine. Okay, so we will put it Keraof and press enter. Then he will ask you to provide a password for this user. So we'll type the password, confirm the password, and this also guarantees that if the administrator is disabled, you can use the other one. Okay, so we have created the second administrator account. Then we need to enable remote management. So remote management, this will enable us to remotely access this server from our workstation, and to also run PowerShell, remote PowerShell session from this machine to this machine. So first of all, remote management is enabled, but we need to enable another option which is called respond to ping. So we need to open the respond to ping. By default it is disabled, and ping is a very important tool to test the communication or the network communication between servers and workstations, or between a machine and a machine. So we need to open the ping respond, okay, to this server. So in some environment maybe the ping should be disabled if you have some DOS attack, or you have some type of attack called DOS attack. So sometimes maybe you need to close the ping respond on a server, for example maybe a web server. So this could be a good option in some situations. Okay, so now we will tell him 3 to configure. Let's tell him 3 and press enter. So we will allow remote machines to ping this machine. First of all, let me show you all something here. Why we need, let me show why we need to disable ping response when we need to disable ping response. Should I disable ping response? This is the first thing. Should not have disabling. This is called ping just if machines ping stopping. No, let me show you, because I think there is a way. Why should I disable Icmp? Network administrators often opt to disable Icmp on network devices to evade network mapping applications used by adversaries. Fork Icmp redirects. Network traffic could be fraudulently redirected to an attacker via fork Icmp redirect. Maybe, I think. How do I turn off ping respond? Let me show you. Disabling Icmp wouldn't increase security, but will. Don't disable ping or filter unless you have advanced network knowledge and you know exactly what to do. Okay, so this is something. So let's continue. So it's recommending you not to disable the ping, but in some situations, as I said before, you need to open it. So here now we have enabled and then configuration management. Then we need to 7 to enable remote desktop. So this option will enable us to run remote PowerShell commands from a workstation and use different remote tools to access this server remotely. And the desktop, we need to enable desktop or remote desktop, so we can from this workstation use the remote desktop connection software to connect to this server, okay, remotely, also via the remote desktop connection program. So we will enable it. So here we will choose the first option to allow only clients running remote desktop with network level authentication. So it will allow you to use remote desktop connection program to connect to this server remotely, okay, but you need to be authenticated, or you need to be in a group that is allowed to access this server remotely, okay. Sometimes you have a group called remote users, so you need to have your users in this group, so it will allow you to use the remote desktop connection manager to access this server remotely, okay. So we will enable the first option, and then we have it. We need after that to change the date and time setting, so we need to work with the date and time setting. These are 2 network cards. We will not set any IP addresses on them now. We need to go and set the date and time, so we'll press cancel or press enter. So now we go to 9, and then we need to change the date and time. Press enter. So here it is Canada, United States, so you need to change the time zone to reflect Egypt time zone. So we not change the time. First we need to change the time zone. Okay, we are preparing this server to join the domain, okay, and after joining the domain we will promote it to be an additional domain controller. So it's Cairo time zone, it's 2 plus Greenwich time, so it's okay. And then we need the telemetry setting. We have discussed what is telemetry setting before. We need to set it to, okay, security, okay, or basic. Actually I have done it to enhance it, but don't worry, I have a group policy. After joining this server to the domain, it will be changed to basic, so you can set it now or wait until the group policy is applied, okay, and this group policy will change it to 1 or 2, okay. So now we will set it to 3, okay, and then we need to first, now what we will do, we need to install PowerShell 7. So I have said before there is PowerShell versions or different PowerShell versions. Okay, a PowerShell version or the PowerShell as a whole, it is a type of program. We can use it through commands to do a lot of configuration changes to servers remotely or locally. Okay, so now we have on this server PowerShell 5 installed, but I need to install PowerShell 7. So we will do this. We install PowerShell 7. I have the installation source on my Z partition, which is the network shared driver between my host and my guest. So let's wait and see. First of all, we need to do something else. We need to enable PowerShell remoting. So this is an option we need to enable on this machine. By the way, enabling remote management will enable PowerShell remoting. PowerShell remoting, it is an option that we open on this server, so we can open a PowerShell session on a workstation, and through it we can do remote changes on this server using the PowerShell. Okay, so it's called PowerShell remoting. So we will enable PowerShell remoting. Actually, it is enabled, but we will do this. So we'll go 15 to go out of the command and press enter, and then we will need to go to the PowerShell first. So this will not work unless you go to the PowerShell mode. So we type PowerShell, press enter, and then enable PowerShell remoting. So we can use, after enabling this option, we can go remotely or go from here and open a PowerShell session and apply commands on it, and it will be executed remotely on the server. Okay, so now we are in the PowerShell mode. So let's type the command or copy the command and paste it. So now we have it. Force and press enter. So it will take a little bit of time, and then we need to disable the firewall because it will do a lot of damage, or it will block a lot of things. But take care, if you are blocking this first, before disabling the firewall, you need to have another command called winrm quick config. This is also remote management quick config. So this will enable remote management, but through the PowerShell. Also, this is done already. So we have it already. So by enabling remote management from the start, the one that we have done previous seconds ago, this command will not be in effect, or it's useless. But anyway, I am using it. So winrm quickly config, it's already enabled. So because we have enabled it before. Okay, so after that, as I said before, we need to, here we will winrm is not set to allow remote access anyway, so we will enable it. So we will continue working with the remote management. We will enable remote management, tell him yes, and then we need to disable the firewall because it would blocks a lot of things to the server. But before doing this, you need to make sure that you have a hardware firewall installed in your network, and you have a strong antivirus with a strong firewall protection, okay, before disabling the Windows firewall. So now what we will do, we need to go and disable the firewall completely. Okay, so the Windows firewall, so here you go, it is set firewall. So we will disable the firewall, okay, on the domain network, the public network, and the private network. Okay, and press enter. So these two will enable us to work remotely on the server. These two commands will enable us to work remotely on the server through the PowerShell or through other tools. Okay, so now we have done this. We need now to make network team between the two network adapters. So we need now to team the two networks. So now we will type sconfig and press enter, and then we need to make a restart. So I need to restart the server just to make sure everything is in effect. So we tell him restart. Okay, option 13. And then we will make the network teaming between the two network cards, and then we need to set a static IP address and provide a lot of things. Here we will go to this .msi file. This is the PowerShell 7, so I need to put it in my shared folder between my virtual machine and my laptop, and I will use it, okay, to set up PowerShell 7 on my new domain controller or my new virtual machine. So we'll put it in AD collection. This folder is shared between me and my virtual machine, so I will paste it, okay. So we'll paste it here, and then we will access it from the virtual machine and set up the PowerShell 7. So now it is already copied. We'll make Control Alt Delete, and then we put the password, and then we need to access the Z partition, okay, Z partition, and then tell him dir, okay. So we need to access AD collection. We will type cd dot slash and then press tab. It will get you the three names, and then press enter. cd dot slash, and then so we'll type cd or dir first. We need to access, or it's PowerShell, so cd, we need to go to a certain folder, cd dot slash, and then press tab until you go to the folder that contains the PowerShell execution or executable file. So I think it is in the red alerts, okay. It is a folder in AD collection, and then we will tell him dir, okay. So you are now there, dir, and this is PowerShell 7, so we'll type p and then press tab. We will not do this, okay. Yes, dot slash and then tab to get the name of the executable file, and then press enter, okay. So tab will help you to browse or to list the files quickly and choose one of them, okay. So now we are installing the PowerShell 7. Next, we have done this before in RACC01, so now it will be installed here. Next, okay, and then we need to enable PowerShell remoting. You need to make sure, because we have enabled PowerShell remoting on PowerShell 5, we need to do this for PowerShell 7, okay. So we have discussed with this PowerShell remoting before. Next, and then next, and then after that we will access the PowerShell 7 to make the network teaming between the two network cards, okay. So now we are updating the files. It's copying the files, installation. And by the way, PowerShell 7 and PowerShell 5 will be working together, so you can work on PowerShell 5 and PowerShell 7. PowerShell 7 will not replace PowerShell 5, okay. So now it is already installed. I think it is paused, maybe. No, it's playing. So now we can tell him finish, and then we need to go to the folder that contains the PowerShell 7 and run the PowerShell 7 from it, okay. It's in C program files PowerShell, so we go to the C and then cd two dots to get back to users or to make up one folder, and then dir, and then we tell him cd not cd program files, okay, and then we'll tell him dir need to go to the folder named PowerShell. This contains the PowerShell 7. Windows PowerShell contains the PowerShell 5, so we need to go to the PowerShell, okay. So here I have mistaken, so I tell him dot slash and then press tab, okay, and then you can type a lot of tabs until you get, this is not the correct location, so this is not correct. Type cd two dots to get one folder up, or to get back one folder up. So tell him cd two dots, and then we tell him cd dot slash and then PowerShell, press enter, and then dir 7. This contains PowerShell 7, cd 7 to get to this folder, and then we will type dir. We need the executable file called pwsh. So now here I'm just pressing tab to get the name of the file, but actually it's not correct. We need to type pw, okay. So this is not correct, so I'm typing it a lot of times. At the end you need to type pw, so I'm here just referring and seeing the files. So if you go further up, we can see that there is something called PWSH. This is the one, PWSH. Okay, so we will type PW, so we'll go there and type PW and then press tab. So press another tab until we get this one and press enter. Now we are inside PowerShell 7 module. Okay, and then we will type the command to get network adapters to display the two network adapters in front of me. So now we have the first command. We have done this before in our ACC01. So get net adapter. This is the command we will issue, or we will implement, to get the two network cards installed on this machine. We'll get the name of the network card, the number of the network card, so it will take a little bit of time, and the connection name. So we have two network cards, and this is the manufacturer, and then this is Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 0. So we need now to make team between Ether 0 and Ether 1. Okay, so now we are making teaming between the two network cards. And then we will put the command. First of all, we need to take a snapshot before teaming. So I will take a snapshot before make teaming, so everything, if something goes wrong, I can refer back to my snapshot. So I will take a backup before making network teaming, and to save all what I have done to this virtual machine. So before teaming of NIC, so I'll take a snapshot. It will take a little bit of time. So now we have finished. It's our 95%, 60% snapshot. Now it is taken. Now we need to issue the command and then press enter. It will ask us to confirm the teaming between the two network cards with some settings. So tell him yes. Okay, we press Y. Okay, and press enter to make teaming between the two. Okay, and then we will issue a command to see the status. So here we can see that the status of the teaming, it is down. So these two cards are teamed, but the status of the two network cards are down, so they are both down. We need to regularly check. So we will wait a couple of seconds or minutes and then check the status of this teaming by a command to see if it is up. We need to see it as up, not degraded, not down. We need to see an up status. So let's see how we can do this. So we'll go to network teaming, or something called network NBO team. This is will get us the teaming status. So we'll tell him this and press enter. Here we can see that it is degraded, so it is changed from down to degraded. So it's still down, but partially up. So we need to issue the command after a couple of seconds to see the status up. So this means that the two are up and running. Okay, so let's wait and see. Here we can see it's still degraded. We will wait. We need to wait. Okay, and then this command will give us the two teams. So will give us the status of every network card separately. If we type this, it will give us the status of every network card separately. First of all, here we can see that it wasn't pasted here, but this is the same command we have issued before. It was degraded and then it's up. So now we have both up and running. If we need to see the status of every one of them separately, we will have another command, network team members. Okay, NTL LB FO team member. Okay, so this will give us the status of every card separately. So now we have done the teaming. We need to go and set a static IP address. Here we can see that this is the teaming, or this is the status of the teaming between both. So let's see here. Press enter. Here we can see that this is the new connection that contain both cards. This is the transmit and receiving. Remember, this is 2 GB because every one of them is 1 GB speed. Combined, they have transmit speed of 2 GB and receive speed of 2. So we have doubled the speed of transmitting and receiving. So this is one, and this we will use this name to set, or we will use this name to access and set a static IP address for this server. So we will see that in a moment. and remember the name Microsoft Network Adapter Multiplexer. We will see that when we try to get to sconfig. Here we are making PS remoting again. I think maybe let me wait for a moment. So now I think yes, we need to go to sconfig to set a static IP address for this server. So no, not this one. We'll go to sconfig. It's up and running now. We don't have any problem. The teaming is up, so we need to go to sconfig and set a static IP address on the teamed cards. Here we are enabling PS remoting again. Remember, I have enabled PS remoting on PowerShell 7, so we don't have any problem. And WinRM is already enabled, so we have the two enabled on PowerShell 7, so we don't need to enable them again, because actually I run this on PowerShell 5, so I don't know if I need to enable them again on PowerShell 7. But this said, or this says that they are already enabled, so we don't need to do this again to PowerShell 7 module. Okay, so now we need to go to sconfig and set the static IP address. And then we need to do another thing, but first of all we will type sconfig. So we'll type, I think, sconfig. Let's wait for a moment. So now I type sconfig, press enter, and then we need to set network setting, press 8, and then we need to network multiplexer, this is the one, tell him press 3, then we set network adapter, press 1, and then it is static, so we'll press S. Okay, and then we need a static IP address. It will be 192.168.1.9. this will be our IP address, and subnet mask will be 255.255.255. the gateway will be 192.168.1.2. this is the virtual router. And then we have done this, we need to set DNS servers. We will put our primary domain controller and our primary DNS, to put it here 192.168.1.8, so we can be able to join this server to the domain. Okay, and then we'll put the alternative DNS, which will be the IP of the server itself, because this server later will be additional domain controller and additional DNS, so we put the alternative DNS to be the IP of the server itself. So we'll tell him okay, and actually we will not be able to promote this server to be an additional domain controller unless we put this one also. Okay, so take care of this. Now we have done all of this. We need, before doing this, I need to confirm something, because I have I didn't do something, or I have skipped a couple of things. So here I am opening the primary domain controller, and then I need to see the IP config setting. Here is the IPs, just to make sure everything is up and running. Now I need to go to the menu, or to type press 4, and then what we will do here, we can press 1 to join the domain. So now we join this server to the domain, but before doing this we need to make or update this operating system. So we need to download and install Windows updates before joining this server to the domain, to make it completely secure, and to update our Windows Defender, okay, or our antivirus. By default there is an antivirus of Windows called Windows Defender, so we need, by the way, I do not recommend to use Windows Defender as your default antivirus program. Anyway, so we need to install a good antivirus on the server, update it, and update our Windows itself or operating system before joining this server to the domain, so this will be completely secure. But I have missed this, so what I have done, I have joined this server to the domain, and then I have updated my Windows system and updated my antivirus. So this will not be the case. You need to first update the Windows, update the antivirus, and then join the domain. So I will do this, but in reverse steps. Okay, so you need to make sure that this to be done. Okay, so first of all we tell him 1, and then So first of all, we take a snapshot also before joining it to the domain. So for joining domain, and then take a snapshot. So the difference between this server and this server, we have promoted this server to be a domain controller from the command prompt, but this will not be a server yet. We will join it to the domain, and then through the POW we will use the graphical interface to promote this server to be a domain controller. We will see that in a moment. Now we will tell him, you need to join a domain, tell him D, and then type the name of domain, which is red alert dot internal, and then press enter, and then he will ask for a user to authorize it to join the domain. So I'll type red alert, the domain, then care_of, this is the domain admin account, and then he will ask us to provide the password, okay, for the user that will authorize this machine to join the domain. So now we will put the password and then confirm it, and then it will restart the server after that. So tell him yes. He tells you if you need to change the name of the computer, but I have done this previously, so we need to restart the server. Okay, and after that we need to see a couple of things. We will see that the group policies will be applied to this server, the default to domain policy will be applied to this server. So we'll see the welcome screen. We will see one major change. I will show you all what I mean by this. We remember that we have a user called administrator on this machine, okay? So take care of this, okay? It will take a little bit of time. You will see if you have good hardware, the Windows Server Datacenter Core have a very fast boot order, or not boot order, boot sequence. It will be much faster, okay, or boot time. Okay, so here if we wait for a couple of seconds, and then we will see when we press Ctrl Alt Delete, we will see the welcome message or the warning message. So this means that the default to domain policy is applied. So I think we can wait for a second. Applying registry and some, yes, default to domain policy. So there is a couple of things to be applied, or a couple of group policies. Now we press Ctrl Alt Delete. We will see that the authorization, okay, this is the prohibited unauthorized access, this is the welcome message, and then if we press OK, what we will see here, we can see that there is no administrator. Okay, so it had disappeared. So what happened? I have in my default to domain policy, I told him that any user named administrator on any server or any workstation, you should rename it to be care_of. So let's see. Remember, care_of, he is a domain admin account, so the local administrator will be the same as the domain admin. So let's see when I type care_of what happened. So when I type care_of, you have changed the name from red alert to domain to be the name of the machine. That means that I am accessing locally on the machine, and care_of, he is the administrator on this machine. Care_of, it is the administrator, but it was renamed. So this is done by the group policy. How I can bypass this? Because I have a domain account with the same name. So how I can tell him that care_of is the domain admin and not the local administrator on the machine? I will type the domain here / the user, so he can know that this user is in the domain, not the local administrator account. So let's wait and see. So now we will type red alert. Okay, again, sorry, you can see here that it changed again, red alert slash krauf, and then press password, or put the password and press enter. Now I have accessed the machine using my domain admin account. Remember, I didn't put here is the command that will update the Windows Defender. So we need to go to the PowerShell. I think I type who am I first, maybe. Just a moment. Yes, PowerShell, and then press enter, and then we will type the command to initialize an update for or to update the Windows Defender. Okay. Now to take a little bit of time, so we can pause the video. Now we are there, and then we will put update the messenger, oh sorry, the Defender, Windows Defender. So to begin updating the antivirus, there will appear, or there is a message that will appear stating that the Windows Defender is being updated. So it's a good thing always to make sure your server is completely up to date and completely protected before joining it to your network. Completely updated as an operating system and completely secured by installing an antivirus and updating it to the latest version. Okay, so now we will wait until this finished. I think we can have it 1 second here again. So here we can see it will begin updating. So we have it 01 complete, and this is the update process. It will take a little bit of time, and at the end, after all of these dots are finished, so you are updated. So let's wait here again. So now we are up to date. Now we will go to the sconfig and begin updating the operating system itself. And by the way, you will not see a lot of updates because this doesn't contain a graphical interface, so the updates will be less. Now we'll press 6 and then tell him search for updates, not recommended updates, all updates, and press A, and then it will search or go to the Microsoft website and download all of the updates available for this server. Remember, this wasn't updated from 2020, so this is 1 year. So if you see how much updates are retrieved, you will see it's only 5 updates. So this is much, or this is less updates. So we can see here that it's only 5 updates. There is 1 year, and in 1 year, if you are working with a normal server with a graphical interface, you will see a lot of updates missed. But here there are only 5 updates. So this means less updates, less time to install, less time to operate, okay, or less downtime. So here we have Windows Defender antivirus update and some cumulative updates, 2 Windows Defender updates, and the other are 2 cumulative updates for Windows and 1 from the net frame. So here we tell him to update all, a single update, and press all. So we will update all. If you need to install some updates, so you can choose, but here we will install all of the updates. Now in installing, it will take a little bit of time, and at the end it will ask you to restart. So now I will log in again, okay, because I have left the machine for a couple of seconds, so it had kicked me out or something. Not kicked me out, just locked out the machine. Now it's installing the updates. Now we can see that all of them are succeed. So all of them are succeeded as installation. The result of all are succeeded, require restart true, so you need to restart the machine. So now we restart, and now we have this machine, just a moment, we have this machine completely updated and completely secure until now, because we will do some hardening later to make it more secure. So now we have our machine updated. So this is the working, this is the updates, and now we can go and begin checking or begin after doing all of this, we need to take backup, okay, of this machine and backup of the domain controller as well. So now it will take a little bit of time, so let's go further here. 60%, okay, and then we have 91%, 94%. So 95%. I think we can pause it also here quickly here. So now it's 100%. Now all of this we have prepared the server. The upcoming video will join into the domain, but not from the command prompt. We will join it from the workstation here remotely using a graphical interface. So let's see how this will be done. So we can go there. Now we'll again log in, okay, red alert, and then type the password and press enter, and then to put the password and press OK. So now remember, we don't have the idle log off program. I need to put it here, so I need the server to log off, but I will copy the folder from here to there. Anyway, who am I? I am K-Raouf red alert. So here I'll take a snapshot after joining the domain, and then we'll take a snapshot of this domain controller and this machine. So after updates, before domain controller, okay, before promoting this to be a domain controller, this is the member server until now, okay. So it isn't a domain controller, so it's a member server. So now I have taken a snapshot of the machine. It'll take a couple of seconds. 94% or 95%, and then 96%, 97, 98, 99, and then so we have this. So now we can type sconfig and then choose to shut down the server. So we can choose the option to shut down the server, 14 to shut down the server, okay, and then we can shut down also the server there. So now we have shut down the server, and we have our backup, or our snapshots are taken. So now we need to go and close this server also, and the upcoming video will begin working with promoting this server to be a domain controller, but remotely using our workstation. Okay, so now we will press Ctrl Alt Delete and then OK, and then press OK, and then go again and close the server. By the way, you can close it from here. I will show you later that you can close it from one key or one click without having to go to sconfig and then press 14 or type 14. So we can do this. So now we can go to sconfig, and then you can shut down the server. So it's more easy to type or shut down the server by a command and not through a menu, and also by one click. I'll show you all how this can be done. First of all, you need to see here that the telemetry is changed to security. Remember, this was enhanced before. So this is done also by group policy. The default domain policy changed the telemetry setting to security, and this is the recommended setting by Microsoft and some other famous non-profitable companies concerning the security of the internet and security of different products. So now we will shut down the server. So this concludes for our video. So I think we will open it, okay, and then close it. So and just power off. This is the notification. So hope this video is informative for you all, and I'd like to thank you all for following. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Thank you so much.